In this video, we are going to discuss about connectors, what they are used for, and how we can use connectors internally in coworkers. So let's get started. So connectors are essentially one of the major building blocks of Wexa. You can access connectors within the workspace, like on the left hand menu. When you click on connectors, you would first be able to see the list of connectors that are already available within your workspace, or you can also add new connectors by clicking on new connector button. So you can check different connectors that are actually available for your use case, and you can simply add them by clicking on the button. For example, let's take content creator, which just creates content using AI. So in this case, I can simply add this connector. I can call this as a content creator connector. I'm totally fine with that. And then its job is just gonna do generation of the content here. It only requires the name as a configuration for the connector. You just input the name, or you can leave it default, really up to you. And then you hit on submit. The connector is already added to your workspace. Make sure that you look at the setup guide when you are actually configuring the connector. So in this case, we don't need to do anything on this front. So let's hit submit, and this connector would be added. Yes, so you already have it. Now you can have multiple instances of same connectors. For example, in LinkedIn, I already have added my LinkedIn connector in the previous video, where I tried to create a coworker, or I hired a coworker from Marketplace, and this coworker already requires a LinkedIn connector, and that's how this particular LinkedIn connector is actually added here. So you can also add more connectors under the same name. Say, for example, I wanted to add another LinkedIn connector in this case. Of course, LinkedIn is a premium connector. You kind of have to be on a paid plan in order to get access to premium connectors like LinkedIn and WhatsApp. But assuming that you have the access to premium connectors, all you have to do is just click on plus button here, and you'll be able to add a new LinkedIn connector here. So earlier I have added my own LinkedIn account, so you can add another LinkedIn account. Just click on test, and then once you submit, the LinkedIn account is already added, will already be added to the connectors list. Now similarly, I can add another content creator. I can, let's say, one of my favorite connectors is actually web scraper. Let's add that as well into the system. So we have web scraper. I leave it as it is. I would say, there are two things. So one is of a type page, and another one is of type website, I guess. So let's check the available ones. Yeah, it's either website or page. So in this case, I'm just gonna give it as page, and that's it. So click on submit, and you should have the scraper ready. We're going to talk about how we are going to use these kind of connectors within a coworker in the subsequent videos. This particular interface is purely to manage your connectors. So now let's add another connector, probably one more interesting one that I like. Where is my favorite guy? HTTP request. Yeah, HTTP request. Now, this is a very interesting connector because this can pretty much like a blanket HTTP, connector, wherein it will be able to make any sort of HTTP request through agent engineering. So we'll also see how this particular connector will be useful. So let's add it to our, workspace. So this is already there. Now a little advanced connector that would be interesting for you guys would be, RESTful API. I mean, this kind of works pretty in tandem with how the general, APIs work. Now you just have to configure the RESTful API. So the thing here is that you kind of have to attach one API after another under RESTful. Like the way of configuring it is, click on configure REST API, and you just provide different sorts of authorization, whichever URL you will have to really call the API, and what all the different kinds of requests that you would like to follow here, and authorization headers, body, etc. So once you configure this, agents will be automatically able to use this particular API. So connectors kind of come with various skills. So if you actually wanted to analyze what's there inside LinkedIn, for example, so LinkedIn has various actions in this case. Like you have an action which will list all the chats from the account. There is another action that would be sending a message to the provider ID, another one to retrieve a chat, another one to start a chat, retrieve a profile, list all messages, etc. So one thing that you should be aware when you are working with Wexa, especially if you wanted to add a specific connector, you should also try to look into the documentation here and then see, what are all the different actions that are actually available here, and how you might wanted to use that in your coworkers. For example, creating a post, it's already available. Retrieving company profile is already available. You should also be able to search for companies on LinkedIn. You should be able to search for people on LinkedIn. If you have a sales navigator account, then search people, and then search companies using your sales navigator, etc. So once, I mean, by default, usually these are all enabled, unless and until you explicitly disable, but usually just enable. It's no harm at the end of the day. um, Specifically with LinkedIn connector, there are certain caveats that you should keep in mind. Especially, make sure that you are not trying to use the same LinkedIn connector with various SaaS platforms, because that would also, you're basically, flagging your LinkedIn account in such a way that there is some sort of malpractice. So be sure not to attach your LinkedIn account at multiple places, and at the same time, make sure that you are definitely following the guidelines of LinkedIn. Too much of messaging, or too many connection requests is definitely going to block your LinkedIn account. So just make sure that you are adhering to the LinkedIn guidelines. But this is more about connectors. I mean, you can add any number of connectors. There is no restriction in terms of how many you will be able to add under each connector type. Like for example, LinkedIn is a connector type, etc. So if you don't have a connector that suits your business need, and if they have a RESTful API, obviously you'll be able to use a RESTful API connector. But in case that is also not really supporting your use case, please raise a request to us, and we are definitely going to support you in adding that connector into the ecosystem here. Thank you.